I have written probably 10 manuscripts over the course of my writing career so far, sent over 60 query letters, and received a lot of rejections. This video is for you, and also me, but also you. Let's get into it. I'm Grace. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me, or welcome back if you've been hanging out for a while. I've been meaning to make this video for basically as long as I've been able to hold a pencil, as long as I've been able to write. Rejection is a part that comes with it, and it's an unfortunate part because writing is something that we love to do so much. You love to do it. That's why you're watching this video. I love to do it. That's why I decided to start a YouTube channel in the first place, was because I like to create and make things. So this video is going to be split into chapters based on what we're going to be discussing, and my goal here is to help you feel more confident in yourself, in your career, and in your writing. Because if you don't have access to writing resources like I did, I grew up in a community where basically no one that I knew wrote. No one that I knew wrote. Very few people that I knew even liked to read for fun. It was extremely, extremely difficult and more disheartening than people would probably like to believe, especially for teenagers. So for a little bit of backstory, I started writing when I was 7 years old, and when I was 12, I started sending query letters. That means that you contact agents to hopefully sign you to their literary agency, and then they contact publishers on your behalf, editors, in hopes of getting you a publishing contract with a publishing company. So there are a lot of steps. And I started querying when I was 12. And I paused because I remember the query letters that I sent, they were horrible. They were not, I didn't know what a query letter was, basically. I was 12. Nobody that I knew wrote. I didn't have any adults around me that wrote professionally who even knew what a query letter was. Quite literally flying by the seat of my hot pink shorts. So a query letter, if this is the basics, we're going to go over the basics here. Just in case anyone needs a little refresher, okay? Just in case. So a query letter is where you are basically pitching your book. So when you go to the store and you buy a book and you turn it around and you read what it's about, what's on the back is the query letter. And it describes what the book's about in a hopefully persuasive way to want to get you to buy it, to want to get an agent to want to read more of it. It's basically you selling the book. And a lot of writers, myself included, have a very hard time with that because you have to shift from seeing your book creatively, where you just want to talk about all the details, to figuring out how to sell your book. And that's a very different mindset that can be very difficult for writers to learn. It took me, I would say, 4 to 5 years to learn how to write a really good query letter. It took me a long time to learn, especially because it wasn't really taught. It's not something that's taught. It's assumed that you would know how to. And yes, this was before AI. This was before AI apps. Like, I didn't have Microsoft Copilot on my 6th grade computer. I was literally just writing them with no one to refine it with the knowledge of what a query letter is. So I was sort of a frontier pioneer in the query letter world. And a query letter, if that works, then you have the synopsis that you send to agents. And a synopsis is like a 5-paragraph, page and a half breakdown of the plot points of your book. So everything that happens, who the characters are, all the major plot points, all the spoilers. Basically, if you really hated someone and you wanted to tell them everything about a book as they were starting it, that's what you would do. You would spoil absolutely everything. No stone left untouched. No spoiler kept a secret. Just sharing everything. That's what you're doing. That's a synopsis. Some agents don't require it. Some agents do. But you don't want to be assuming that they won't, and then you really want to send someone a query, but you don't have a synopsis, so you're having to write one last minute. Do not put yourself under that kind of pressure. Just have one set to go. It's going to be painful. It's going to be miserable to write. But once you have it done, that's your synopsis for everybody, so you're all good. And One of the things that I was not taught, because I didn't grow up around writers, was that you have to personalize your query letters as well. And that basically means that you can't just write out what the book's about and then send it to the agent. You cannot have it a form. You can't just like copy paste for everybody. You have to put in a little bit of research into the uh, what the agent, maybe who their clients are, what they represent, and you're going to have to tailor it to that. So if they say, let's say as an example, you have a book that's about a love triangle, and they say that, like on the manuscript wishlist website, that's a great resource because that's how you can find lists of agents and editors, and you can search by keyword. So, like if you write historical fiction, you can put in historical fiction and pull up agents that represent that, and you can find what company they work at and everything. So let's say on the manuscript wishlist website, they have their favorite show listed as The Summer I Turned Pretty. Let's say they really like The Summer I Turned Pretty, and you have a book that's about a love triangle. Well, so does that show. So you could say, this book really prioritizes the high intensity love triangle that you really emphasize in your profile. That shows that you did research, you read what they liked, you internalized it, you processed it through your book, and you're now aligning with them. That makes you seem like you have something in common. So that website is a great resource if you want information on agents beyond what they represent, because they often list their favorite books, shows, and you start to get a pattern of what they like. And if it aligns, you know that they might be a good fit for you. So moving on now that we've gotten over the basics, um, here are some things that I do personally that help me with my writing that I was not taught. And then after this, we'll talk about the rejection, but that is an inevitable step, but we'll get into that after this part. So, some things that I did was I made a spreadsheet. I made a spreadsheet of all the agents that I'm querying. And here's another thing, everybody will tell you that you only need to query 10, that you only need to send out 10 query letters. That's just not good advice, because you're going to be querying agents based on genre and subgenre, and your book will have a couple of those. Your book might be a little bit fantasy and a little bit historical fiction, so you might end up querying a few different areas of agents to make sure that all your bases are covered. That might not all fit within 10. So don't feel bad if you send out more, because at the end of the day, when an agent opens your email, they're not going to know how many other agents you sent the query letter to. For all they know, you could have sent out 10. You could have sent out 5. Who knows? And spreadsheet. The spreadsheet basically helps you know who you've queried, where they work, the link to their email or profile, some keywords about where they, like what they prioritize, what they like to represent, and the status of your query. So, like submitted, and then either rejected, or you could say like partial request, which means that if they like your query letter, they request maybe the next 50 to 100 pages. Or you could put full, which means that they requested to read your full manuscript. Or you could say accepted, which means that they liked it and they want to sign you. That's one thing that I did. And another thing that I did was get books on writing, because much like when you like a singer and nobody that you know does, it can feel a bit isolating. It can feel like you don't have the community that you wish you did. So I have some books that I picked up specifically for that purpose, to make me feel seen and to help me know that I wasn't alone in what I was trying to do with my life. So one of the books was The Poets and Writers Complete Guide to Being a Writer. And that has everything that you could ever need to know. It has everything about query letters to example query letters. Because again, when you look at what a query letter is, it says to pitch the book. But a lot of people don't say how they wrote their query letter. And things are a bit different now from when I started querying, when I was 12. That was like 7 years ago. That a lot has changed in as far as people sharing and people help making it more accessible for newer writers in the industry. And So that's part of it, is that you're probably going to want that book. Anne Dillard. There are a lot of, basically, find authors who wrote about being an author. Okay, if you have social media, follow writer accounts. I didn't have social media when I was younger. I was not allowed to have social media, which was frankly good because we see what happens when little kids get on it too early. But because I didn't have that, I really had to turn to more books for resources like that. But if you have social media, you can follow writer accounts. There are so many. I follow them now that I'm on social media. Confidence. And this is what is going to be necessary when you have rejection, because when you write, you see your book as the best story and you understand all the themes and you see how it could be portrayed as a movie, and you have a soundtrack on Spotify and you have all these visions, and then you realize, what happens if all of that work was for nothing? What happens if I never get accepted by an agent? What happens if I have to move on and maybe write a different book, or maybe I shouldn't be a writer at all? Like, those thoughts are very common when you start sending out query letters. And I, frankly, since I'm querying right now, I'm getting rejection emails back, and it is very easy to fall into the trap of thinking, well, I've gotten, 7 rejections so far, so that means that I am never going to get an agent, and I'll just have to work on another book and just put this one away. And I like to think of it like dating. You could be a person who is great and you're fun and you're nice and you always text back and you always get another sandwich for somebody else if you're out. But if you're just not meeting the right people and you're just not having long-term relationships because you're not meeting the right people, you don't have like a large pool of good choices, then you're going to be single for a little bit. But that doesn't mean that you're not a good person to date. That just means that you're sort of not getting the right targets to launch your arrows at, if that makes sense. And it's like that with querying too. You could have a great book, but if the agent, maybe they haven't updated their list in a little bit, or maybe their list is a bit too full, or maybe they just signed someone that has a book super similar to yours, so they don't want to sign 2 of them. Or maybe they're too busy and they're not taking on new clients. Or maybe they just didn't really like your book as much as someone else would, so they pass on it. And there could be any variety of reasons, and you have no idea what it is. Some agents don't update their list as often as they should, which means that you're maybe operating off of an old list. Could be anything. But when you get rejections, it's important to remember that that does not mean that you should not try more, because there's sort of this misconception that the more that you try, the less likely you are to get something. And that if you're effortless and things just happen, that means that you were so talented that no one could deny it. There's this misconception that the more talented you are, the easier things come. And I like to use the analogy of Sabrina Carpenter when I think things like that. So, Sabrina Carpenter, she was in the music world for 10 years, basically, before she became a household name and before she really became who she's known as today. Like, before she opened for Taylor Swift and was going viral and had these hit songs, she was a smaller artist. And it took her 10 years. Now, maybe you've been writing for 10 years, or maybe you haven't. But Sabrina Carpenter did not think to herself, well, it's been 5 years, so that means that I'll never be a household name, and I should just give up and go to school and get a degree and get a regular job and just give up on being a singer. No, she kept going and she kept putting out albums and she kept working hard because she believed that one day it would happen if she kept trying, that eventually she would hit the niche, or she would grow and evolve enough to where she was ready for what comes with being a pop star. And that is what could very well happen to you and to me, is if you stick around and you don't believe that a certain number of rejections cuts you out of the game, then you could very well have the tenacity to get accepted and to get a publishing deal. And also, when it comes to rejection, it is also very easy to compare yourself to the writers that you see online, because although it is fun to see what the other writer accounts post about, like, oh, I just got an agent, or, I remember I saw a tweet where this woman said that she had just sent out 10 query letters for her book, and 7 of the agents had asked to read the full manuscript. I have never experienced that. And so I read that and I was kind of like, oh, well, that's never happened to me. Again, I don't know what kind of book she wrote. I don't know what kind of agents she queried. For all I know, it might not have even been true. I don't know. But it's very easy to compare yourself like that. Just like it's very easy to compare yourself to someone who has a boyfriend or has someone that they're dating and you don't, but you really want to. It's very easy to get like that. And that's one of the hardest parts, is when you're writing and it's late and you're tired or you have a headache and you're trying to motivate yourself as to why you believed in doing this in the first place. You start thinking to yourself, what's the point? Why am I even bothering to put myself out there and to write these query letters when it's a slush pile and they have hundreds of emails and tons of clients already? Why am I even doing this? Is that every person who has ever ended up successful at one point never thought they would be successful. There is no one who has gone through their entire formation of their career and known, I am so awesome at this, and I am for sure going to do super well, and I'm going to get that deal, and everyone's going to love me, and I'm going to be a smash hit. They have not thought that consistently 24/7 for years and years. There were points where they were like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's a waste of time. It's taking up all my free time. I'm having to cut out other events that I was going to go to. I don't even know if I'm very good. All I'm getting are rejections. They thought that at one point too. And the point is to align yourself with the idea that any email, any day could be the day that everything changes. And if you keep that hope, and if you keep reminding yourself why you love writing, watch movies about art, about writing, read books that you really love, research the publishing industry, follow YouTube channels that talk about popular books so you can keep in touch with what's going on in the publishing industry. You'll never be out of the game. You're not out of the game until you decide that you're done. And if you had a kid that really loved doing something but was getting rejection, you as an adult maybe would understand, well, rejection happens. You have to stick with it. You have to believe in yourself. So you have to believe in yourself with this, because this could be everything that you've wanted. I often end up watching documentaries about singers or artists or musicians or successful people, because there are always clips from when they were a teenager where they're good at what they're doing, but they're already thinking like, well, I don't know if this is going to work out. And you're young. And some of these people, like I read something that said that Vera Wang designed her first dress in her 40s. And like someone had their brilliant inventor business idea in their 30s or 50s even. And if you're, 19, 20, 21 like me, and it's just not happening for you yet, guess what? You're 19 or you're 20 or 21. You're basically a brand new adult. You're still a little baby version of an adult. You just became one. And you have to get to the point where you're ready. Here's the second one. So when I was 13, I received an offer. I wrote a book, my first full book. Well, sort of full. It was rather short. It was on the shorter side. But a self-publishing company wanted to publish it. They offered me a contract. And I said no, which is not something that 13-year-olds normally do when they're offered a publishing deal. Normally, they take it and say, yes, thank you, may I have another one? And I said no, and I walked away from that because I wanted what some people I was hearing got literary agents. And I was like, I want one of those. I'll try for one of those. And for the next 6 years, that is what I have been trying to get. As I've reformed my writing and taken breaks from it and given up on it a little bit and then come back to it, and it's been a very long process. And when I was 16, I entered a writing contest, and they had a book that they were putting together, an anthology of stories about quarantine. And everyone got to submit a story, and each one would be a chapter. But I really didn't think I would make it in because everyone was older than me. And everyone had like traumatic quarantine experiences, or they were single parents who were trying to manage families. And I was like, I was 14. I didn't have any interesting stories. I just played Minecraft and watched TV shows. Well, turns out, I guess someone thought that it was a good story because one day I got an email that my story would be published in a book. And that is this book. And because my last name starts with B, Boughton, I'm actually the third name on the cover. Right there. Which is very cool, and I'm still excited about it every day, which just goes to show that you really love writing when every day you wake up and you're still excited like it's your first time doing this. And after that was when I figured like, okay, I can do this because I never thought I would get in. Just like you never think that you'll be accepted until you are. And jinxes don't exist. So be excited, believe in yourself. Agents don't know whether you have confidence or not. And for the love of God, please check your grammar. In your query letters, please check your grammar. Proofread, please. And spell the agent's name right, because that's very important. And they will reject you if you can't spell their name right. Just, if you can't spell and if you can't, like, use proper punctuation, they're not going to want to read a full book of yours. And that's just the brutal truth. Thank you so much for watching. This was a bit of a different video. It was more commentary based and more about the writing journey and dealing with rejection and inspiration and resources. And thank you so much for coming back to hang out with me. And I hope that you subscribe and give this video a like so it goes out to more people, so we can just spread the inspiration of writing to everybody. And if you have any video requests or anything that you'd like me to talk about, make sure to leave it down below. And make sure to check out my other videos and follow me on social media. And I will see you next time. Bye!